All right, so I'm going to go kind of out of order with my experience with this whole thing. I'm not going to mince any words here, like straight up, for real. I could have died from this. All it would have taken was one mistake, one misdiagnosis. If I would have waited too long, I could be dead right now. So here's the thing, I can't tell the future. And based off of all of the things that I have had done to me in order to help me with this disease, with the chemo, this thing could have taken years off my life. And because I never got a bone marrow transplant, just because I was treated doesn't mean that I'm cured. Think of HLH kind of like cancer. You treat it like cancer with chemotherapy and radiation, and then it goes into remission. HLH is very similar. You can treat it, and it goes into remission. As of the time of this recording, there is no way to tell where this disease came from. And if you're treated, are you really cured? Because it can come back. Speaking openly, that's a fear I have to deal with every single day. And that fear didn't really set in until I started to recover after I got out of the hospital. That's the part that a lot of people don't tell you about, ladies and gentlemen. They tell you about the treatment, they talk about the procedures, but they don't talk about the other stuff, the personal stuff, the aftermath. I think we live in a society where you're taught not to feel things. You just suck it up and keep moving, no matter how bad the trauma you just experienced is. But when you do that, what that does is that it creates damaged people. Really, there's no timetable for grief. But you should understand what it is and not let it completely take control. I believe you should never try and solve your problems with alcohol. Rather, seek personal help for trauma if you need it. But in order to do that, you have to be real honest with yourself. I mean, real honest. And you'll thank yourself for it. Okay, so with this first part of this whole thing, I had to read from a script. So I write this stuff down so that way I have like a concise idea of what I want to say. But this part here is just me off the cuff. Now, I am a 34-year-old African-American male. Now, I have HLH, which is hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. Now, with HLH, it's a child disease. It's a disease that's usually contracted by children. It's either caused by a viral infection or it's familial, meaning that it's passed down by birth, kind of like alcoholism or cancer or any other sort of familial disease that runs in a family. Now, as far as my family tree goes, I don't know if my prior family history has any sort of signs of HLH in it. I've never really done the research that far back. So as far as I know, I'm the first one. I'm like patient zero in my family with HLH. And it's not cancer. It's an autoimmune disease that affects the blood, or should I say the blood cells, the white blood cells, to be more accurate. Now, I've gone over this in other recordings, but, nobody else seems to be interested in telling my story. And it's a fascinating one of a disease that nobody's really familiar with that I'm getting treated for, but yet all of these physicians that keep meeting me keep expressing that they've never heard of this disease until they met me. And whereas they have to do research just to know what to do, just to treat me, I don't think that it's being taken as serious as it could. It's like, because it's not cancer, then nobody cares. But I've read other instances of people that get HLH, and it's like everyone is beating down these people's doors to talk to them, but I'm just some guy in some small town with this very rare disease. And nobody seems to be interested in talking to me. No physicians seem to be interested in asking me questions, asking me questions about symptoms, how I got sick, when I got sick, what are the symptoms, what are some of the side effects of the illness, and there's many. So if nobody seems interested in telling my story, then I guess I'll just have to tell it myself. With these recordings, I hope that someone hears me. I'm not trying to get any notoriety or anything like that. I'm not trying to get views or clicks or try to monetize this in any kind of way. That's not what the purpose of these I guess you could call them these audio memoirs is. It's just me trying to spread the word about this disease. Now, honestly, I feel sort of like a dick here, because it's like, man, I didn't care about, HLH until I actually got it, but I didn't even know this disease even existed until it happened to me. And this is not something that you just take some Robitussin for and you just keep on moving. That's not what this is. This is a life-threatening illness. It's no joke. It's a legit, serious illness that can kill you and that has taken life before. So it's nothing to scoff at. There's this idea in society that if it's not cancer, then it's not important, and that's not fair. That is not fair, because there are plenty of diseases out there that can kill you just as fast as any cancer. HLH can kill you within 2 weeks to a month of you getting it if you go undiagnosed. That was me. I was sick for about a week before I finally decided to go to the hospital. Now imagine if I would have waited just a little bit longer thinking that it was a cold, because that's what I initially thought. I initially thought that it was just a cold that I had. So I did all of the things that you were supposed to do with a cold. I took Robitussin, I took NyQuil, I took everything, but nothing worked. I just kept getting sicker and sicker. So at the risk of making this audio longer, I think I'm going to wrap it up right here, and I'll elaborate further. Now, I want to reiterate that I am not going to go in order, because there are instances that I have forgotten, because that's one of the aspects of the disease, is that it affects your brain, and I will talk more about that in the future. But for right now, I'm going to wrap this up, and if anyone happens to hear this and you are going through HLH, I hope that these prove to be helpful to you, and to know that you're not the only person with this, and there are people out there that understand what this is and that understand what you're going through. Now, I don't know, the likelihood of this, somebody with HLH actually hearing this is probably slim, because like I said, there's a lot of physicians that I've seen that's never even heard of this until me. So I'm going to cut it right here. And until next time, thank you for listening.